Nerd on the Podcast is proudly partnered with Apogee Electronics and Odyssey Headphones, leaders in the field of audio. Clark, you are my son. Like, that just...
Yeah.
Can I just go back and pretend it?
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Nerd On, the podcast you didn't need, but you deserve, and where all levels of nerd are welcome.
All of them.
All of them.
Even you.
In the pantheon of superheroes, the one symbol most recognized in the world is the red S. In the film that begins the journey of nature versus nurture and the symbol of hope that would begin our road to Zack Snyder's Justice League, aka hashtag Snyder Cut, today's topic is Man of Steel. But before we get into that,
river.
before we get into that, I am Josh, one of your hosts.
I'm Tom.
Wow.
I'm Caitlin.
I'm Batman.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
Or Corey, maybe also. Could be.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'm
But
Corey.
this episode is brought to you in part by the members of the Nerd On Nation that is powered by Patreon.
Patreon.
As a member of the Nerd On Nation, you do get fun perks, like you get early access to these episodes. You get bonus episodes that nobody else hears. I lost my voice for a second. And you
Choke on your promo?
I know. And you get access to secret channels on our Discord server that only you have access to, and all sorts of other fun stuff. And at the same time, the Nerd On Nation has allowed us to grow and be the best that we can be. Lots of upgrades have been available because of the Nerd On Nation support, and it's fantastic. So check that out, nerdon.tv/Patreon. And a huge shout out to our partners, Apogee and Odyssey. Apogee have equipped us with the Hype Mic, the ultimate podcasting microphone. It's an excellent microphone. Check it out. And Odyssey headphones. We use their LCD ones. We also have some of the Mobius that we use while gaming. Fantastic headsets. Do check them out. And if you use the link nerdon.tv/Odyssey, you can support the show while shopping for excellent headphones, and you can use the discount code NERDON10 ! For 10% off of your order. That is the LCD ones, LCD GX, or the Mobius, one per customer and not valid on promotional priced items. And also, if you enjoy what you hear today, stop by, rate, review, subscribe, share us with your friends and family, all that good stuff. But yeah.
When you rate and review our show,
Here it comes.
it's like how when you have a hot mug of tea and it's the first one you've poured for yourself or your cup of coffee, and you bring it up and you breathe in that steam and you go to take that first sip and you just
And then you take alternating turns with your co-host while Josh is doing the ad.
yeah, and it's just a beautiful thing.
We were both getting those rates
so
and reviews.
please,
I saw that.
we were getting those rates and reviews, sipping on them. It was so relieving, so relaxing, so enjoyable.
like I can
so
breathe
please
better,
know that when you leave
you
us
know?
those reviews, yeah, we'll shout you out. If you give us a review, we'll be like, hey, thank you.
And it's
Yeah.
free.
I love you.
It is free.
Free 90 free.
It's free to support. Free to
I
help.
love you.
Let's
Anyway,
move
let's get started with the
on.
show.
So the next part of the show is going to be our first two segments, which are going to be one that entails at the end of the show. So we're just going to go jump right into it. We're going to do our
Guess
that Grump.
Yes, that Superman.
Bum,
He's a
bum.
man. He's
Bum,
got
bum,
beard
bum, bum,
and
bum,
he's
bum,
got
bum,
no
bum,
beard. He's a child. He's a man. He's a super. He's Kal-El. He's Krypton. He's Superman.
That's good job, guys. Good job.
Wow, that was actually
That's not bad.
all right.
So if you're brand spanking new to that
really
show,
good.
that show that you're listening to right now, which is Nerd On, Guess That Grump is where we're going to go around the digital screens. If you're not watching on YouTube, you would see it if you were, so you should be. And we're going to guess who is going to have the lowest score from a rating of 1 out of 5. Now, no matter how high that number is, the lowest one will be the Grump for the week. Since I always explain it, and I never throw in a curveball. Josh, go first.
There it is.
Between two, and I'm just gonna lock it down. Caitlin.
Okay.
All right, Caitlin, who you got?
I'm all right.
Who's your money on?
I think it's gonna be Josh.
Ooh, baby.
Not even a spite vote. Not even a spite vote.
She wasn't here when we talked about what we talked about in the green room.
Thumb, dark and ugly. Who you got?
For me, for the Grump, it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be. Let's just make it a thing. I'm gonna put Corey.
I already wrote your name down next to mine.
It's a Spider-Man
while
meme,
you were
y'all.
stretching it out, I was
Point.
like, I feel this. I sense it in the force, a disturbance. I'm gonna say Caitlin.
Oh,
See,
For reasons.
J'accuse.
Tom, I watched this movie with Tom, so
Yeah.
Tom has a sneaky peek behind the curtain of
Yes,
how I feel.
But I have a sneaky peek at how others in the room feel as well. So I'm like torn. Like,
Well,
you'll see.
it
why.
was between Corey and Kaylin for me. That,
Okay.
I'll say it
Yeah,
that
me
way.
too.
So that's why I picked what I picked, because I just wanted it to be even,
Okay.
like the universe.
Do you
balanced.
like giving us your opinions?
How can they get involved, Corey?
You at home. Do you like telling us what you think? Because we like hearing it. Rate and review. If you'd like to partake in the show as well, you can. If you want to be one of these, you like us guessing who the Grump is, and you want to throw your towel into the in the fight in the ring, you let us know who you think, and you could be the guess that graveyard digging Grumper Gatorator.
Whoa. Wow.
So, and if
Great
you get it right, you get a shout out on the show, which is pretty cool because we like giving shout outs, rate and review. So, with that, the Nerd on Nation, this was a close one. This was a very close Nerd on
Yeah?
Nation. They had trouble deciding. But Josh, it's Caitlin.
every time.
So
It definitely couldn't have been me. I don't know why.
no, Tom, you had no votes. DC
I
boy.
can't wait till we get to the next part. I can't wait.
DC blah.
Yeah.
It was between you and me, Caitlin, and you had one more vote than I did. Just one.
Okay.
But we had a good turnout for that one as well. Thank you guys for participating.
Thank you.
Stick around to the end of the show. See if you get a shout out if you got it right for
Yes.
that grass-fed.
So what's the
graveyard
order,
digging.
Corey?
So the order is going to be Tom, you're first. You got no votes. Then it's going to be Josh or me with one vote. And then it's going to be Tom.
Caitlin?
Sorry. Yeah. It's going to be Caitlin. Tom.
It's going to be May sometime.
It's going to be Caitlin with 3 votes
Okay.
after that.
So with that,
Tom, Josh, Corey, Caitlin. That's the order.
with that whole mess behind us now, we're going to go to the complete spoiler of that and go into our initial reactions and our first impressions. Now, I am going to go first this time.
Oh.
I'm going to go first and say it like this.
Oh.
Initial reaction, when I first walked out of the theater, I watched it. I was dating this one girl. I watched it with my boys. I remember very specifically how it went. The theater on opening day was semi-full. Not even packed, semi-full. And I remember walking out of that theater and being like, that's pretty cool. That's pretty dope. And I remember seeing the internet just shit all over it. And I was just like, what the fuck? What's going on? And I kind of had like this feeling of like, well, Jesus, it's not like the best thing ever. It's not no, Dark Knight. But like, I liked it. It was good. And I actually, over the years, watched it and rethought about it. I only watched it maybe a handful of times, and I watched it again for this episode. And it really started getting me to like really like Superman. Much like the Capes Crusaders host, David Barry, which you guys should all listen to. He was kind of like, well, Superman's boring. Superman, whatever, blue Boy Scout, blah, blah, whatever. And
The Cyclops of the DC universe.
and this film
Colors and
dared
all.
to do something different and dared to kind of go into a little bit more, I feel like, of its true origin. And it's almost got to the point where for me, like Superman, I got to the point where I was a big Batman fan, but then I later on learned like you can't really like Batman and not like Superman. Like they're kind of, again, two sides of the same coin when you're talking about characters in America. And it's gotten to the point where now where like, of course, Batman will always be my favorite, but like Superman is like almost there next to him. And it's because of this film, and it allowed me to kind of really think about what Superman really means. And I'll leave it with that. So with this film, thank you to this film.
I'm just going to go in order of the Guess That Grump. I'll go next. So to preface a little bit, Superman is my favorite superhero. There were times in my life that I even had Superman socks and shirts.
Dude,
and
I was with you. I had a belt buckle.
Yes.
Yeah, those were so hot
Nerds.
back in the day, man. Yeah.
Like when I ran track, my track socks had Superman on there. So I felt powerful. I liked it. So I was super pumped when this movie was announced and everything, and I watched it, and I love this movie. This is a hashtag that's my Superman. This movie, and I'll tell you, because I was hinting in the digital green room that, so this is episode 188 of Nerd on the Podcast.
Wow.
And this is probably one of the first times that I've truly been nervous to talk about a topic. And I'll tell you why, because I've stayed pretty much outside of the kind of polarizing viewpoint. I didn't know how polarizing it really was. All I knew is that
Not like me in the trenches.
yeah, you're deep within it. I had no idea. I just all I knew was the general that there are people that don't like it. And then for this episode, prepping to watch it, I just wanted to do my research because I love this movie. I've watched it so many times. I probably watch it a couple of times a year just because.
Wow.
And getting prepped for this episode, I watched it a couple of more times and trying to find the other side, and I had no idea how polarizing it is, and it's super polarizing because in one Google search you can find Man of Steel is the best superhero movie ever made, and then the next one, Man of Steel is hot garbage, and it alternates
Sounds
like
about-
that.
Yep.
And
The internet.
yeah, so my initial reaction of it summarized is that I remember watching it going, oh my God, this is amazing. I love this. This is it was for me, it was like the Dark Knight of Superman, where it gave darkness, and it's like, I love that Superman is usually like the beacon of light and blah, 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 but it was like, he wasn't always, I like the idea of an option of it wasn't all, sunshine and rainbows. You know what I mean? Like darkness of his journey. So anyway, I like it a lot.
I'll go.
Corey?
First, I want to say Henry Cavill. Hashtag that's my Superman. That
Yeah.
dude. That I
Poor ugly
Aside
man.
from,
he's just so hard to look at.
I feel so bad for
poor
how ugly
baby.
he
Yeah.
is.
Oh,
and
my
he's so
goodness.
charming and nice. It's dang
No,
it.
but seriously, since Christopher Reeve, this is and he even kind of looks like him a little bit, Christopher Reeve, which is a nice homage to the original films, which I grew up loving as well. And I just this is nothing to do with the film, but it depresses me how woefully underutilized he's been within the DC universe, and the fact that we haven't got a second Man of Steel film is heartbreaking because he's perfect, and I know he wants to do it. I know he does.
yeah.
He named his dog Cal.
We all want
Aw.
it because I've watched. He's side tangent about Henry Cavill real quick. I follow him on social media. He's such a nerd. He's kind of
He's a big ol'
sweetly
sweetie.
awkward. He's sweetly awkward, but Superman can be sweetly awkward in that same way, which is it's him. It's like that casting, once in a lifetime casting,
What's
where you're
him?
like, oh, this was what you were supposed to do.
There's a
Okay,
compilation on YouTube of Henry Cavill in embarrassing situations, and it's just people giving him compliments. And if you watch him, he's just he just kind
So
of
uncomfortable with it.
wiggles in his chair.
Well, my favorite story is the Fat Cavill with Russell Crowe.
Oh my God!
Have you heard that story? Yeah, where he met Henry Cavill when Henry Cavill was a kid. Russell Crowe, as an actor, went to this school, and this kid was like, "I want to be an actor. Can you tell me about it?" And Russell Crowe's like, "I usually give the try." He's like, "But something about this kid was different." So I was honest with him. I was like, be ready for this type of work.
They treat you like shit, but the pay is good.
Yeah, we get cast in this movie together. He's like, "You don't remember me, do you?" And he went, "Oh my God, yes I do." And I'm playing your dad now. What a crazy. Anyway, that was a fun fact.
Graham
How did I
Norton.
feel about the movie? Watching the movie the first time, I walked away knowing that Henry Cavill was meant to be Superman. I'll say that. Did I love it? No. But it has nothing to do with that performance or how they wrote Superman. I also watched, and Tom's heard me say this probably too many times now to count. I watched the UHD recolor of the film, and it helped a lot. And I know that's such like a small petty thing to say, but like it was the same with The Matrix when they added that green filter, and something about that green filter kind of glazes me over. So watching the 4K UHD where they recolored it, and you have blue skies, and his suit is blue and red and yellow, and it's just like it immersed me a little more, which is like, which I'm basing my rating today off of.
Well, you're
that
also an
viewing
editor,
experience.
so you're very sensitive to color anyway.
Sure. I'd like to think that's why. That's a very nice thing to say. But I did have a few things we'll get into that kind of stood out to me, but there are a lot of really, really wonderful moments in this film that to me jump from page to screen really well. And a lot of it has to do with the Kent family and how that's explored. And I hope that stuff is like canon forever, how they treated those characters, because they nailed it.
Caitlin?
Ba-dun-dun.
Kaylin.
Oh, is it me?
Yeah, you see, I was like, don't leave us all in suspense, Caitlin. We're just saying your name.
I was like, what?
I'm going to insert crickets here.
I thought this was great. I really liked it. Yeah, eat that. Suck on that egg. No, the thing that I said as I finished, because I didn't see this when it came out. I only saw this for the first time in preparation for this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So when I watched it, I was like, if this came out like last year, it would have done really well. Because I think if I had seen it when it came out, I wouldn't have liked it, probably. And with all of the context of other things that I've seen now, it makes me appreciate it a lot more and be able to watch it. Tom's like grinning, smirking so much right now.
I have like theories about this film.
Of course. But it did so many things well. And I feel like if I had watched this when it came out, I would have been like, I don't like this version of Superman. And now I'm like, nah, this is the version of Superman I want. Like, this is what I want to see. And that's all I'll say on it for now, because we're going to get into a lot of that in a minute.
Yeah.
If you listen to our update show, it's not uncommon to hear me say I'm the DC boy. And man,
DC what?
I just have so many feels to say about
The
what
DC
everyone's-
what? Do it right, Tom. Or don't
DC
do it at all.
boy.
Thank you.
There it is.
There it is.
But you guys like ones that
Branding,
DC
Tom. Branding.
branding. I need to make it, coherent.
Yeah.
So with that,
Fair.
we'll
How do
go.
you spell that? B-A...
B-I-G-H.
B-A-I-G-H.
Yeah.
Bye.
So now that we've gone through all of our initial reactions, we'll go into our next two segments, which are going to be our brief synopsis and our production. And I'm doing the brief synopsis. This is all still spoiler free, so if you have not watched the film yet, it's on HBO Max. Check it out. Please get excited about it. A young boy learns that he has extraordinary powers and is not of this earth. As a young man, he journeys to discover where he came from and what he was sent here to do. But the hero in him must emerge if he is to save the world from annihilation and become the symbol of hope for all mankind. Da-da-da.
Nah.
And now, the
And
production. Please give it away.
We have Producción. This is distributed by Warner Brothers Pictures. They have done such things as the Lego Movie, the Harry Potter series, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. The director is Zack Snyder from Dawn of the Dead, Watchmen, and 300. The producers is Charles Roven, known for The Dark Knight, Get Smart, Kicking and Screaming, Christopher Nolan and Emma Thomas from Dunkirk, The Prestige, Batman Begins, and Deborah Snyder from Watchmen, Wonder Woman, and Sucker Punch. The writers for this, the screenplay was from David S. Goyer, who did Blade 2, the Constantine series, and Batman Begins. The story is by David S. Goyer and Christopher Nolan from the Dark Knight trilogy. Superman was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. And then we got our cast. Henry Cavill from Mission Impossible Fallout, The Witcher series, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Amy Adams from Enchanted, Arrival, Nocturnal Animals, Michael Shannon from Groundhog Day, The Iceman, The Shape of Water, Diane Lane from Under the Tuscan Sun, so good, Inside Out, upcoming Y, The Last Man, Kevin Costner, Dances with Wolves, Hidden Figures, Lawrence Fishburne from The Matrix, School Days, and Contagion, Christopher Maloney from Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, Harry Lennox from Ray, Matrix Reloaded, The Blacklist, and Russell Crowe from Gladiator, Nice Guys, and American Gangster.
Now I can only think of Christopher Maloney and Harold and Kumar.
Yeah.
And that's the only one you can think of?
The Devil. What?
How about the rest
Devil.
of it, Caitlin? Release date?
Oh my goodness, there is more information that I can provide to you about this production. It released on June 14th in 2013. The runtime is 143 minutes. The budget was $258 million with $668 million gross. The Rotten Tomatoes score is a 56% from critics from 335 users and a 75% audience score from 250,000 plus users. That gives you an idea.
It's a lot of people. So now we'll get into spoiler full county, country, planet, and all spoilers from here now. We'll do our favorite parts, our favorite characters, our qualms, and finally our rating. I want to do something real quick though. I just want
Get it out there,
information. Tom. And this isn't fully spoilery-ish, but
be prepared for those.
But be prepared for them. Exactly. Thank you. That's exactly 100% right.
That's your warning.
The film has Man of Steel or Superman has not been out of Warner Brothers peripheral. So this didn't come out of the blue. We had the Dick Donner, Christopher Reeve Superman, and we even had Bryan Singer and Brandon Routh Superman and Superman Returns. Now I think this
Even
was
though
going to be
we
this.
don't want that anymore.
I love Brandon Routh.
Brandon I agree with that. I'll meet you there.
And the thing is, there was a lot of talks about Batman, and this will all make sense soon. Darren Aronofsky was going to do Batman. He was going to have a red suit and be like more boxery. It was a weird time, weird place. And then Superman Returns. Superman Returns came out, and it had very lukewarm reception. And then Christopher Nolan did Batman. And we all know how that went. It changed cinema. It changed how we view superhero films. Dark Knight's revered as one of the greatest films in the last 30 years. And I think it was during the time, and Zack Snyder has gone on record and done interviews with his wife, Deborah, who's his producing partner. And Christopher Nolan and David S. Goyer had the idea of like, let's do a Superman kind of like this. Where we can kind of reintroduce the origins and go about it and talk about it in a serious fashion. And that's when they decided like, let's bring it to Zack Snyder. So like Christopher Nolan and his wife, Emma Thomas, who's his producing partner, met with Zack Snyder with the lunch with his producing partner, wife, Deborah Snyder, and they pitched him the movie. And Deborah, who was the kind of like guardian angel, was like, are you sure you want to do this? This is not, not saying that your other films aren't great, but it's like, this is something way different. And Zack Snyder had done Watchmen, and so he is familiar with the superhero, the cape and cowl world. But to me, I think
that 300, he's just even more, he's with the comic book world as a whole.
Yeah. And so I think there is that sense of like, why Zack Snyder? And I was like, Nolan kind of handpicked him. Nolan was like, this is the guy. And I thought that was very interesting because there is this like love fraternity of directors for Christopher Nolan, like Guillermo del Toro, Zack Snyder. They all really enjoy like the craftsmanship, and I think Nolan really kind of saw that in him. And you can trace this all back to like if you see behind the scenes featurettes of The Dark Knight Rises, or you see featurettes of like The Man of Steel, then you'll see how these conversations kind of went in place. And I thought that was just kind of good piece of information because David S. Goyer has been part of comic books for such a long time. And, you know, having Christopher Nolan coming in with this like real world groundedness and then bringing that to Man of Steel, like kind of ushered in this new thing. Because also just turning back the clock, the attempt at the DCEU was not with Man of Steel. It was with Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern. And Man of Steel was the one that was the most viable. Be like, okay, this is the stepping off point. This is the story that we go off of. And I think it's also important to kind of mention that, like, to Josh's point, Superman, right? It's like, doesn't have to be all happy-go-lucky and all that stuff, but it does have some darkness, some grit. And it's not that Zack Snyder only wants that. And he's mentioned that, like, Superman is the greatest superhero. But that doesn't mean it should deprive him of the hero journey. And so he doesn't get to be born good, perfect, and knows exactly what to do. From Zack's perspective, Zack wanted him, he's like, he will go through the, and I've been adopting this, the Herculean trials and tribulations and the sacrifice and the struggle, so that when he comes out at the end of the journey, like, it makes sense, like, oh, this is why this is the person that makes all of the tough decisions, who is always going to be the beacon of hope, because he's been through the worst of it. And yet he still does it wearing blue and red tights. You know, like, he does it unironically. He does it where, you know, Batman has to be in the dark and the shadows. So I really kind of enjoyed that perspective and that discussion where this film comes in play. So without that, I mean, yeah, and now with Zack Snyder's Justice League coming up, we're going to see where that journey leads him. And I'm here for it because, yeah, it's for me. Yeah, it's Jerry Siegel and Joel Schuster. Yeah, Jerry Siegel and Joel Schuster, like, they were Jewish guys escaping from Nazi reign, and they came to America and they created this character who hides in plain sight and yet will never be American, will never be one of them. And it was this kind of power fantasy for them to be like, they could do all that's right and all that's good, but at the end of the day, they're not a human. They're not seen as Americans. And I thought that was such a wonderful, and I think it's a very important, poignant thing now more than ever. And to Caitlin's point, it's like, again, if it had been made last year, it would be seen with different eyes. And I think this film and the story with Superman definitely ages better than in time than a white billionaire guy who just punches people in the middle of the night, you know? So that story of being an other and being, you know, having the weight of the world on your shoulders and to do the right thing, but never be kind of like granted grace. Anyways, I could go all about like the meta textual of it, but let's hear some favorite parts. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. One of my absolute favorite parts, if not my favorite part, is when Clark/Cal learns of who he is and his past and kind of that exposition. And he basically, it's the moment when he's shown the suit and then he walks out of, I know it's that spaceship, but I'm just going to call it the Fortress of Solitude. It's that place. He walks out and he takes his first flight, and it's the moment when he is like soaking in the sun that like just really gets me every time, where he's just like, he's made a decision. All that radiation. Yeah, it's that, but it's also just like, he's made a decision that he's been like holding for 30 years. And I don't know if anybody's ever done that in their life, where they've made a big decision that they've been holding back on for a really long time, and they do it and they're like, oh, it's so freeing, but it's still scary. You know, it's like you can just that moment and he learning to fly and then when he falls a bit and then he just kind of like, well, he gets back up and he flies, you know, and it's just the little moments of the rocks like swirling when it's building up energy. And he just, it gives me chills. It almost makes me want to cry. It's such a cool, like, it's the becoming. It's the very first, it's the kid learning how to walk. It's
the metamorphosis. It's the shedding of the old self and living within the new.
And the suit.
Oh, the suit's pretty great. Yeah.
Anyway,
I'll say that. That was, the flying scene was one of my ones I had marked here. So I'll just move on to the jail scene. Him in the talking with Lois, and then finally having enough of it and just like breaking the handcuffs.
Let us
and,
put our cards on the table.
Oh, that face.
yeah, look, when he's like telling him, I
breaks,
can
he's like,
see you. I can see you behind there. I can see that, how many people you have there, the weapons, this, that.
Oh, that one.
And then, when he just finally stands up and he like breaks the handcuffs. And she's even like, why'd you let him do it? He's like, I don't know, whatever makes him feel safe is fine by me.
It makes you feel good. Okay.
Well, there's also really good cinematography happening right there between like there's a sheet of glass between Harry Lennox's character, General Swanwick, and Superman
Wink.
of like they're in the same place. They literally occupy the same space, but they're separated by a sheet of glass. And the only thing that Superman that we physically see him looking at is himself.
Yeah.
And there is that wonderful conversation of like, he is
But
constantly
he can see.
yeah, but he can see. And so there's that view of like he's constantly battling himself as well. And so
Yeah. I also loved how they showed the scene in the school when his powers start manifesting. And you actually, for the first time, get to see, you get not in a cheesy way, because we got to see some X-ray stuff
Overwhelming.
in the original Supermans, but it's always kind of like let me step in front of a screen. But the way they did this, like looking at his hands and seeing all the kids outside and hearing everybody, and then Martha coming and helping him focus, and I thought it was really cool because we've never got to see that, at least that I can remember, got to see Superman being overwhelmed as a child by these powers. We got to see him like accidentally do stuff, kind of like Hercules, where he's like, "Oh, I accidentally pulled the whole door off."
I lift the whole house.
Yeah, but you never got to see the like. What is this? What am I seeing here?
But it's also just kind of like, it's something that's elemental to us, like puberty, like it's very overwhelming. And it's also utilized in the fight later on. And so it's like this wonderful, like he's done his battle. He's carried he's bared his cross of like, I get to live on this earth because I've been with these
Although
people.
Zod figures it out pretty quick.
Because he's built for that shit.
That was also like a really great part of like building that up of like, it took me my whole life to figure this out. And then when he's like, where'd you learn? On a farm? And I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
you're not ready for him.
But yeah, that whole, the jail and the kids scene, those two scenes to me were like, I want to see this. I want to see more of this kind of stuff.
Kaylin, favorite part?
I liked in the beginning with Jor-El escaping and getting the codex and stuff, the fantasy that they put in there with like his dragon
Raka.
buddy. Yeah.
The
just
suits,
all
the
of
fighting
that,
suits are so
all
cool
of it
looking.
was just,
Especially
I
Jor-El's
never really
fighting
thought, oh my God. Yeah.
For a scientist. Yeah.
It was a lot of like, I never really cared about Krypton before because it was like, it's the rock, tiny pieces of rock that Superman gets sad about when they're near.
Yeah.
But then,
Well, because before that, all we saw
then
was,
it made it more.
at least that, again, my memory serves me correct. All we ever really see of Krypton is it like crumbling and then being like, send the baby.
Also,
That's it.
Also,
Yeah, that's it.
crystals and white.
Yeah. That's
Here's
all we
the
really got.
white.
This, they were like, by the way, it was an entire existence of people.
Yeah, and
They
creatures.
lived, it was
that we've never
lived in.
seen.
And
They lost
colonies,
it was extinction.
and-
Like, yeah.
I mean,
yeah. So it was cool to get more of that backstory and for it to feel more fantasy sci-fi than just sci-fi.
Yeah. And getting to humanize
It's
Zod
good.
a little bit.
I mean,
Like, and knowing that him
Oh,
and
man.
Jor-El like respected
We're
each before
buds.
all this. They weren't buds. I mean, he even says it. He's like, we didn't agree on
Sort of buds.
anything.
The only thing we agreed on was that Krypton was dying.
Yeah, but they respected each other
Yeah.
before the crumbling of the
Leaders
planet.
in their field.
They
And when
respected
he
each other.
turns off Jor-El and he
Oh, yeah.
closes his
Caitlin's got
eyes
all
for
of
that
them.
like second.
And the fact that he's like, I live with that grief every day and I wouldn't change it that I killed him.
I do it again.
And I was like, whew. Michael
Josh was saying
Shannon.
something?
I mean,
So-
I just wanted to say real quick because you just said Michael Shannon. One of my notes is for favorite parts,
Groundhog Day.
fucking Michael Shannon.
Mine just says Henry Cavill.
Michael Shannon, anytime he's on screen. But I wanted to talk about the Krypton section in relation to the suit because I was watching an interview with the costume designer, and it was so cool that of how much thought that they put into the suit of like, we've always seen like the spandex and the underwear over the spandex, and
Oh my
they
god,
wanted
so
to-
much. Yeah.
they were. I like that they were like, we wanted to figure out a logical reason for him to have the suit that he does, and then to see kind of the origin, like with Krypton, those black suits. It was just like, it was so
They
cool.
called someone behind the scenes, I think, called the red and blue suit that Jor-El designs, because it's always black, right? But they called that the public relations suit that Jor-El. No, but like Jor-El
Yeah.
basically designed it to introduce him to humanity as like a bright figure.
It's like military dress blues. You don't
Yeah.
normally
Yeah.
wear that. You wear like your Class B uniform, which is like, this is what I work in. And it's like normal. And it's like lame looking. And then when you wear the nice jacket, you're like, okay, now I'm here to talk to people, but I'm not going to go to battle with. But what you go
Yeah.
to battle with is with all the armor. Except Superman only has one suit.
Yeah,
So,
he doesn't.
but no,
although
I-
you
I-
do get to see that black suit in the flashback, or in the
the dream.
not flashback, the dream,
I do
the
like
nightmare.
that that you're talking about, like how painstakingly they were like, do we put the trunks on? Do we put the trunks off? Like, because it's a relic of the strongman days back in the 30s, which was very prevalent. So it
Yeah.
makes sense. Like, yeah, strongmen wear underwear on the outside, so we have to have it. But it doesn't make sense now. And that's something, and I'm going to talk about like aspects that I've really enjoyed. And it's like that, like Caitlin was talking about, like the sci-fi sequences. Like, I remember watching in the theater, I'm like, I could do without this scene. And then now as an adult, I was an adult then. Now later on, I was like, I'm watching, I'm like, wow, this is like a conservation story. This is about like how political complacency has ravaged this planet. And I'm like, only if that didn't make an echo now, like of how sad and slow politicians make decisions and they don't listen to their leading scientists. You know, like those things. I was like, oh my God, like how, and then so there's that. And then again, it's the whole, like, I'm glad they included religion in this film where he goes to the church and he's like, everything in my body tells me that I shouldn't trust Zod, but there's part of me that says I shouldn't trust the people of Earth. And there's like, it's that leap of faith. And like, to me, those are like, again, like I really admire, you know, the very tactful usage of
Although
religion.
he does just fucking drop that all on the priest and it's like, all right, peace.
All right, I'm out. I'm the guy they're looking for.
I
The
said that
priest's
while we were
eyes
watching it. I was like,
He's like, anyway, I don't know if I'm gonna save you guys later.
But then there's
I
that,
love
you
it.
know, there's that shot behind him with Jesus in the background. I'm like, I see what this is. It's the great sacrifice, right? And it's like he's turning himself in, and it's like, oh wow. Like there's like that kind of stuff. But it's like the military being involved and they not trusting them, and they're only worried about themselves, and it's like all too much. But then when you watch and you see all the flashbacks of him as a child or him being younger, and every moment that he has a reason to be like, fuck humanity, there's someone or something worth saving. And that's the thing, that the thread that keeps him going through, like with the girl at the bar, and you know, like the
IHOP
girl,
guy.
it's and Pete being a good guy at the end, and so any other favorite parts? There has to be more.
Oh yeah.
I
Re-entering the
loved
atmosphere.
Lois
and getting
Lane.
his power thing. Sorry, go ahead.
Lois Lane.
Lois Lane doing her entire like backtracking, doing her due diligence as a reporter and finding Clark. Like, I loved that. I was like, yeah, why didn't this happen before? Isn't she like a top reporter? Shouldn't this be happening? And then when it did, I was like, oh yeah, she's like really good at her job. Of course she found him.
Josh,
But
you were
I
gonna say?
loved all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple more on my list. I think I'm a sucker for a dad story. And
That stuff?
it's the dad stuff. When Jonathan Kent tells the moment that he tells Clark, "You are my son." Like that just
Yeah,
Can I just go back and pretend I'm your son? You
Yeah.
are my son, but
You
you are
are my
also the
son.
answer.
and it's good in contrast to the like. No, he's right. We're not his parents.
yeah.
We're doing the best we can.
I just have to say, like, Kevin Costner for me is like, in my life, is like a legend, because like
Yeah.
growing up in the 90s of like all the movies of like Dances with Wolves and all these things that he was in that I
Field
just
of Dreams.
yeah, Field of Dreams, like,
Waterworld.
that I grew up with, that I'm like, anytime I see Kevin Costner, I'm like, huh?
He is
They may
his
not always be
ultimate
good
dad,
movies, but
Robin Hood,
yes.
Prince of Thieves.
And my last no, there's so many. The bar fight just cracks me up every time when Clark has
pushes
to
him.
hold himself back. It's the moment when the guy pushes him and he
falls.
doesn't move whatsoever, and the
Pushes
guy's
himself back.
and then the truck revenge of the poles and trunks through his truck is
Oh
just
my god, that was so good.
so much power.
Ooh.
I want
Go ahead.
I want to talk about that scene with Jonathan Kent, because I think that's a point of polarization. A lot of people really have said that they don't like that Pa Kent was like, what are we gonna do? Pete's mom saw you, and then Clark says like, what was I supposed to do? Let him die?
Yeah.
Says, I don't know, maybe. And I think a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people don't like that because Christopher Reeve, Dick Donner, Superman, the only reason in their version is that Superman's good. Only reason is because of the Kents. And for me, again, like a lot of this hits a lot home for me now, because this story is much more of a nature versus nurture story of like his intrinsic value is to do good. And the Kents offer this real world human surrogate of like and I hate to say this, and this is going to make me sound so much more pretentious than I want to be, but in the postmodern, in like the idea of after 9/11, where the world changes and the Patriot Act is a thing and drone strikes happen overnight and no one hears about it. That being said, of like, it's not just your life. You are going to change the face of the world. And he adds this level of like, oh, this is what it would be like if Superman was on our Earth. Like, people don't respond to change well. People don't respond to outsiders well. I mean, again, like
Look at masks.
huh?
Nothing.
Oh.
Got political for a sec.
No, it's like matters is a tough thing apparently to talk about. And it's like, man, if Superman, someone who could fly, and this later on talks about BVS, but I'm not going to get into it. But it's just like, yeah, someone who displaces our importance in the universe has been living among us, and we have never known about it. And so it's like that level that I always question people who dislike it. And it's like, well, those are your own preconceived notions before walking into this film. You're letting your own lenses be a hindrance of what the film is trying to say.
About that scene?
About that scene in particular. A lot of people really dislike that. And like, for me, I think it actually, like, you know, we're talking about like, I don't know if I should be happy or should cry. There's a lot of scenes in this film that I get choked up on. And like, again, it's because of that exploration I've had to do of watching this film and seeing it in different lights of like the kid who feels like he can't belong, the kid who's told he can't hang out with the other kids, and he's different for no reason. He looks the same. He thinks he's the same, but no matter what, he's different. And like, maybe it's because I grew up as an ethnic minority, but like those things really hit home for me. And like, again, like what Josh is saying, like going back and making a decision, again, it's like for me as an adult, like I'm really starting to like really fall in love with my culture and being like, yeah, I love where I grew up in California. I love the music and all that stuff, but like, I can't speak my language. I don't know where my parents came from. Like those things are very important. And then when you're alone in the world, those are things that you're like, oh, I know my true name. Like, and so that smile he has,
I can talk on that. I can talk on that if you like, because I didn't care for that scene, but it's not for the reasons you mentioned. For me, it's just that as someone, I'm the same as Josh. I grew up before I discovered Flash. Superman was my guy. So I thought I had a pretty good understanding of Jonathan Kent. I mean, I won't say I can boast as much knowledge as Tom or any of the Capeless guys, by far. But for me, it was the way in which Jonathan Kent, I needed some sort of follow-up to him saying, maybe kill a bunch of kids next time or let a bunch of kids die.
Too casual.
It was almost, there was no like, maybe, but like, I understand that's hard, but it was more like yeah, maybe. And it felt out of place for the character, even tonally for the rest of the film to almost callously be like, yeah, maybe you should have let those kids die without even feeling bad about it. So it's not so much because I understand the context of it and I understand the fear that Jonathan Kent has about, the society in which we live in now has changed, and it can't be those same ideals from the 50s and 40s of like, just be a good person all the time. I mean, I think there's even a comic like back in the day, original, where Jonathan Kent even says like, you have to hide your powers for now because people will be afraid. And it's like from the 50s. But then he follows it up with saying, when the time comes, you will be the one who gets to assist humanity. There was none of that usual Pa Kent follow up. And that's a writing and directing choice that I respect, but I guess I didn't. It almost turned me off to Pa Kent in that moment.
Yeah, no, and I think that also gets compounded with the tornado scene, and a lot of people dislike that sequence because.
But I like that. That made more sense to me.
Yeah, and
there's that side of Pa Kent where he's like, but be a good person.
Yeah, well, there's that conviction of like, don't do it, and he has all quote unquote the world behind him. He has Smallville right behind him looking, and he's just like, I don't know what to do. And then he's explaining this to Lois Lane, and she's like, why haven't you come out yet? And he's like, my dad died because on this one belief. And Jor-El is the one that's like, I knew at a moment you'd be old enough to know, and you can make the decision. And that's why I think for me it hits so hard, because it's like, I'm not
disagreeing with any of that at all.
Yeah. But beyond, because what other favorite parts people might have? Kaylin, Josh?
I have more, but
do it.
Okay. It's dark as fuck, but when Superman kills Zod, it's more of like the moment afterwards, because it's just the pain that it's really a performance thing from Henry Cavill and the way that he represents that moment.
He just killed the last of his people.
Yeah. And the heaviness of killing somebody. He's been trying so hard not to do that. And he has to.
Well, it's like, yeah, it's the good person thing. It's him first time being out into the world. It's the last of his people, but also it's like for people who he may not be accepted by.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm risking it all for a mass of people who are more afraid than I could ever like handle. And that's an interesting conversation to have. But like also just with I just love the codex. Like I thought that was such a hand wavy sci-fi thing when I first watched. I was like, what the fuck a codex? Okay. And then I watched like, oh, it's all of the recorded DNA of Kryptonians. So not only symbolically does Superman represent the last of his kind, literally he is the last of his kind. Like everyone that was ever made
in his DNA,
like eugenically created, which I thought that was such a cool thing. Cause again, it's that sci-fi, like on Krypton, the height and pinnacle, the zenith of technology was folly to their own hubris. And it's like, they were creating people, and it's like, you are a general, you are a scientist, you are an engineer, you are an artisan.
You are made to be this thing based on your DNA.
And that's when Jor-El's like, what if a child dreams to be more than what they're assigned to? And it's like that idea of free will. And, now Superman has to use that choice of free will, makes the decision of like, no, like I am Kal-El of Earth. I'm not, Kal-El of Krypton. So there was that kind of thing. I'm like, oh my God. Cause I was like, where's this codex gonna come in? I remember when I first watched it, I was like, whatever. And then rewatching it, I'm like, oh, it's everything. It's fucking everything. So, other favorite parts? Kaylin, you seemed like you were about to you had like a smirk on.
Well, it's more of just like, I love how much they put in this movie and made it make sense. And it's more that I'm sad that it came out when it did. Because something I was talking to Tom about was like, for the Avengers, you gave the like time period.
I just said Dark Knight had come out and Avengers
what was
had come
happening.
out. Yeah.
Right. So we hadn't experienced something like Thanos yet. And this movie essentially gave you Thanos with no buildup before this. You didn't have multiple movies to be like, whisperings of this evil being. It's going to wreck your shit. Like, we didn't get that. It was just like, he's
Thanos,
here now.
wreck your shit.
They will kill you. He'll wreck your shit. And so it was just like, that's why I was talking about if this had come out now post Thanos, I feel like the reception would have been a lot warmer because people understand that you can understand the bad guy too. And I don't feel like that was
but
much
we
of a
had Doc
thing at
Ock
that
and
time.
Spider-Man. We've had, all the Spider-Man villains you feel for. It wasn't a new concept.
Well, the
for me
thing,
at least.
Right, but genocide.
yeah, the thing that I was
That
gonna say
wasn't
is that
really as much of a. There was
Yeah.
like genocide. There's like birth control things in this. There was like there were a lot of things that were happening in this all at once.
Yeah, I think the peak difference though between Thanos and Zod is that Thanos is untargeted with his thinking.
Right.
It's not a some people in the galaxy are lesser than I am.
I'm more talking
which
about
stops
the
the
scale
relation.
of death.
I understand, but I think there is an argument there to relate to a character, understanding a villain. It's hard to understand a villain who views humanity as a lesser. He's Hitler. He's Hitler.
That's where it comes
for
into.
sure
It's
Where
Thanos
Thanos
supremacy.
doesn't have that side of him.
It's their own.
Yeah, he's the whole greater good for the whole of everyone, and Zod is very like my people only.
Yeah.
Everyone else.
He's
go away.
he's a Kryptonian supremacist, and they can go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
But like I think that part, like with the dust in his hands, he's like, no matter how cruel or how violent, I do these for my people, and it's just like, and now I have no people, and you're like,
no,
And-
that's still not okay though.
well, I think that's the
There's always another option.
yeah, and I think that's the interesting thing that like isn't present in the film, but it's like kind of like that fine line between doing something for your people and then fucking supremacy, which is like, that's the reason why they're villains, not heroes. One thing I really enjoyed was some shirtless Henry Cavill. Not gonna lie, I'm here for that. Sometimes I'm always down
When
for
he
a
ran
glory
up?
shot.
I mean, he's even bigger in Justice League.
Yeah,
He got
It's-
huge.
it's ridiculous. I mean,
I
hear that
haven't
he
seen
had to
that
film
yet, so let's just say
dehydrated?
I'm excited.
He made the film dehydrated.
Don't
No, for shirtless scenes, he had to go. He was explaining it pretty much on the same episode of Graham
It's like
Norton.
Hugh Jackman. You dehydrate
He-
yourself the day before, so you look.
He was doing it for 5
Tight.
days, where like on the second to last day before. So there's a filming day. The day before filming, he has like maybe a little bit of water, and then the filming day, there's no water at all.
Just to,
but
like,
he's
keep
been
himself
slowly
alive.
working it off. It's so the skin sucks to the muscles.
yeah, the
Look
skin
at
is
Hugh
really
Jackman
thin.
in The Wolverine.
Yeah.
Watch The Wolverine with Hugh Jackman. Same process. Dude,
Or even
looks-
Days of Future Past, but like,
Days of Future Past. Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's right.
but yeah,
In the
it's-
hotel, you're like, what? What are you made of?
Yeah, he's had to do that for The
not
Witcher.
water
as well.
is the answer.
My only last like favorite thing would be the score. I love.
I really like the little piano and the doom doom, like the very subtle things. Like,
Yeah.
oh my god,
I am
When he
done.
does a little finger touch to the sun when he's laying down after he gets hurt and stuff, and he's like, "Oh, the sun."
oh, when he's reaching
I
for
made
it.
that seem way less like the way I described it, not as cool as it was in the movie when he finger touches the sun in the sunlight and I tried.
Corey, any more? I'm gonna do two, and then maybe we can go on to our next segment. So one thing, I love the action and the fight. Not really the explodies, but the fight choreography and seeing the super strength. Like, I remember watching Sucker Punch and then watching this. I'm like, where were you when Dragon Ball Evolution needed you? Like, what what we got was robbery. Like, this is what, to me, like, yeah. And so,
That's what
like,
he's good at. I mean, look at the fights in 300.
yeah.
You're like,
I always,
what the
I always say like this, where it's like, when people are like, oh, okay, who'd win a fight, the Avengers or the Justice League? I'm like, not even Avengers versus Justice. It's versus Superman. Superman whoop everyone's ass. It's stupid. It's like that, and that's the thing where it's like, oh my god, he's so powerful. But then he has to fight three
Then
of them.
you
And he's getting
bring
his
the
ass handed to
X-Men
him.
in.
Yeah.
His
Okay.
weakness
So
is magic.
yeah, and then this is like the hardcore nerd thing I'm going to bring up. If you're not familiar with the man, Kevin Smith was once penned to write Superman. Superman Lives,
Starring.
starring Nick Cage. At first, Sean Penn, Spicoli, because he has the eyes of an animal, a caged animal. And John Peters was the producer for this. And John Peters said this: I want three things. I don't want a suit. I don't want him flying around. And at the third act, I want a giant spider. there's a lot of different things that happen. He's like, I also want Brainiac fighting some polar bears. It's like we just need to see, someone just killing some things. And anyways, so what I really enjoyed was seeing some of those things happen in this film, where we're in the Arctic Circle and we see the polar bears. So I'm like, there's the polar bears near the Fortress of Solitude. And then we saw the giant spider, which was the the world engine fighting at the third act. And I was just like, this movie was made to spite Kevin Smith, like in my mind. And that's just one thing I was like, oh my God, they have it in here. Those are the elements. And John Peters is not
a spider.
involved. A giant spider, a Thanagarian snare beast. But yeah, I just really thought that was so funny.
Spiders have 8 legs.
Yes.
That was a world engine.
created legs. But yeah, I mean, to your point also, Corey, of like Dick Donner and Christopher Reeves, like Henry Cavill looks, there was a quick fan theory for a while, like when he's in the gravity well.
I looked that up. I thought it was true. Not true.
Yeah, and Zach's like, no, I guess that's good casting. So
yeah. So when he's in when he's like looking up about to fly into the world engine, people thought that a few frames were Christopher Reeve's face because he looks exactly like Christopher Reeves in a few scenes. But it's just the way the light and the wind are hitting Henry Cavill that made him look like it. And that's why I said he kind of looks like him anyway. Wow. And Zack Snyder in an interview was like, look, if the gods want to do that, that's fine, but it wasn't my hand that did it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So. I'll send you the frame after the episode because you're like, I would swear, like for years I thought, I was like, oh yeah, I see it. There it is. But it's not. It's just Henry Cavill's face.
Huh.
With that, we'll move on before this episode gets too long in the teeth. With our favorite characters, and we're all gonna exclude Superman. So any 2 characters we want to pick, have at thee.
Yeah, I can go.
Go ahead.
Martha Kent. Mm-hmm. Because she's, no matter what, even when it breaks her heart, she supports her son. And the line when a truck runs through her house and he goes, "Are you okay?" And she goes, "Yeah, it's just stuff. It can be replaced." I was like,
but you can't.
You are the goodest person in this movie
ever.
I just want to hug her every time she's on scene. Like, she has supported these 2 men who have very strong beliefs, and no matter what, has stayed true to herself and just been like, "I love y'all." That's all I want to say.
That part with make my voice an ocean and swim towards it.
Oh, yeah.
Makes me tease.
And then Jor-El.
Island.
Jor-El.
Jor-El.
You'll be a god.
Russell Crowe was brilliant as this character.
He was also badass.
Yeah, he's badass as shit. When he's leading Lois out and he just keeps appearing and pointing and appearing and pointing in different spots, and then move your head to the left. He was just, and a scientist who can like toe-to-toe it with the leader of all of the armies of Krypton and win. He won the fight, and then he sucker stabbed him. Mm-hmm. So like that's alone is badass as shit. So I just thought he had he brought a really wonderful weight to the character without trying to outshine anybody. Mm-hmm. Which is it would be easy to do in a Jor-El role, I believe, to outshine a lot of people in that movie, but he played it very graciously and very what's the word I'm looking for? He was very supportive of everyone else in the scene.
Yeah.
So
who's next?
I'll go next just because it's very close. Jor-El and Zod. I just think Michael Shannon's performance is just he's just scary and just as an actor watching him, I'm just like completely impressed. One moment that really, really, really just stands out for me is when they're actually being like arrested and they're just about to be put into their like prisons, their pod things, and it's just the way that he lashes out at these guys, and it's just like, you won't kill me yourself. I just love his performance, and I just love how intense he is.
I will find him.
If anybody gets a chance to, please look up Michael Shannon reads the sorority letter.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Very good.
It is.
But like, compare this to him in Knives Out. The dude's got range.
Yeah. Slept on.
Yeah. Shape of Water, so good.
Yeah. Kaylin,
Oh,
I'll send you
yeah.
the link.
Please do.
Caitlin, what's yours?
Lois Lane.
Mm-hmm.
She was just great. Gets cool alien boyfriend and intern who's probably gonna grab her coffees and they're gonna like share that cute little look at work for like months
She's gonna
afterwards.
sleep with the intern.
Yeah, it's adorable, but because they formed her friendship beforehand.
Because it's consensual.
Yeah.
That's why it's
Enthusiastic consent.
Yeah.
It's adorable. And then Martha Kent. Just because she's so wholesome.
Do you
and
remember what
she's-
she says to him in that scene
What?
when they meet?
Oh, welcome to the planet.
Yeah. Welcome
Oh,
to the
yeah.
planet.
I remember going,
Har har har.
really?
Yeah, you do it.
What if Clark went, oh,
Oh, I hate
just
it.
like planet, oh,
Or
I
when
hate
she
it.
goes, well, on our planet, it's an S. You just like, not the point.
Yeah.
Not the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a cute little exchange.
But it's like it's that snarky, Lois Lane that I like, where it's like, yeah, she would bring in the humanitarian, like the human side of the comedy. For me, it's Lois Lane, and then General Zod.
would.
I absolutely like the fact that Lois Lane is fucking good at her job and would know who the fuck this guy is that she's been investigating
Mhm.
for
Yeah.
months, and the whole dance around like I don't know who he is and blah blah, but I'm
Gone,
a
out the
Pulitzer
window.
winning. It's like
get
what
rid of that and get rid of real estate schemes.
Yeah. And I'm just like, yes. Can we get past this? Like, Jesus. It's just a little, I think, insulting to have a character who's like that, who's just like, I'm, you can't tell me what to do, but also like, I'm an idiot at the same time. It's like, well, shit, of course I can tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And I'm not taking away from anyone that does like the old stuff because that's the reason why it's there and you can enjoy it and love it. But like,
Stand on the
if you
shoulders.
want to have it in the real world context, like, think about that for a second. It's like, I'm very good at computers and I don't understand my robot friend. It's like, what?
And I can't tell that my friend's a robot, but I do programming for AI.
And then Zod, I think I have not felt a clearer motivation for that character.
I agree with that.
And so like even within like comic books, I'm like, so why is he here?
And he didn't get thwarted with a saran wrap S, and that's
Yeah.
pretty exciting.
Like I love the original Zod,
Yeah.
or the first Zod in the Superman 2.
Yeah.
But like this one felt like, why would Kryptonians attack Earth? It's such a small because they do have a brighter sun, and it would be
They'd be unstoppable.
and it's like okay, and he's like, yeah, one of my favorite lines like, you grew up on a farm? I was like, oh my god, like he's gonna whoop some ass. That was pretty ball.
Yeah.
And then you got
But
him
then
in
Superman's like, yeah, I did.
you got him in the iconic like flying position. I was like, oh, this is terrifying.
Oh,
like,
and they got rid of his cape too, which I was like, because
Yeah.
for those of you who don't know, in 2, they don't have capes.
Yeah.
They have the black suits, and that's it. So when his cape burnt up and he threw it down, I was like,
but the way that he threw the cape too was also just like, man, you didn't have to do it that cool.
oh,
That
he did.
flourish.
Didn't have to do it that cool.
Yes, he
You
did.
didn't have to do it that cool.
Yeah, he did.
So now we'll get to qualms.
Qualms
So
are
who wants to start? Only 2 qualms. Let's go.
I'll do it.
Thank you for reminding
I'll
us.
do it.
Tom.
I didn't have any kind of cathartic feel when he killed Zod. I didn't feel like it was built up for me in a way that I cared about it.
I want to add a quick tidbit between, I think, David S. Goyer, Christopher Nolan, and Zack Snyder. They were voting if they were going to kill him or not. And Christopher Nolan was the only one to say no. He was outvoted. And then Christopher Nolan said, like, and then I later on looked at it and I said that was the right decision. It's very interesting.
Oh, I think it was the right decision. There was just like there wasn't enough. It's kind of tied into my other qualm that so many people died there that I know with all of his senses he was aware of, and they didn't
Superman?
acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Or Zod, Superman.
like
Yeah.
that wasn't really. Yeah, Superman wasn't. Because while they were flying through the city, I'm like, Zod could be destroying a lot of buildings right now and killing a lot of people. Like you said, he
Corey and I
would,
are
but he's,
smiling
like,
about the same
darting
thing.
around.
Mhm.
He's like darting around, not doing any damage, which makes no sense. So then when he did get to killing Zod, it's like this one family is going to be the thing that sends him over the edge of like, maybe. Like, it just didn't land for me in the right way of Zod wasn't doing the thing that he said he was going to do. And then Superman didn't have to hear thousands of people dying all at once.
Well, he might
So
have
that
not.
was like a weird.
He might have
it
not
just
have
didn't-
heard them because he focuses. Remember?
Yeah, he learns how to focus.
Because
Zod
I'm
probably
going
heard
to
it
say
all.
this is one spoilery thing for Batman vs Superman, and it doesn't happen, so it's not really.
I wanted to say next time on Nerd On.
Well, so there's a moment in Batman vs Superman that Zach wanted to have in, and it's actually exact opposite of Superman Returns. And there's a moment where Superman goes into orbit, and he has to close his eyes and then listen to everything. In the Brandon Routh version, he goes and saves everyone. In Batman vs Superman, the scene that never got shot was that he goes into orbit and he hears so many people needing his help, and then he has to focus on one,
It's to pick one.
and then he goes to that one. And so
Yeah.
I want you to think about that because I know you haven't watched Batman vs Superman yet, but I like what you're talking about because it is important.
But here's what I'm talking about though, is like when they had the gravity thing, like you actually saw bodies come up.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And then when it came to destroying buildings, you didn't hear a single like scream every now and again, even for those close-up shots when they're destroying the side of an apartment building. Like, you telling me someone wasn't in the shower or something, and then he like Zod gorilla climbs up through the side of his wall, and we didn't hear anything. It was just like people are dying, and then all of a sudden it was like buildings are crumbling. There's cool fights.
Mhm.
So it just kind of removed some of that. Oh yeah, people are dying in mass right now.
This film will have consequence. That's all I'll say.
Yes.
This film will have consequence. So
yeah,
yes.
I don't doubt it.
Yes.
I'm just saying in this film,
Sure.
that wasn't present for me. So the build up to Zod being killed wasn't as impactful as it might have otherwise been. Because I was like, why does this one family get
Yeah.
the key shot of like, I care about just you?
Do you have a second?
But
No, they were both.
no, they
Oh,
were tied.
got it.
There were two.
Joshua?
Next. Josh?
My only qualm really has to do with Jonathan Kent. And it was already said in the earlier part. I just didn't want to extend on it, not being
For
in
sure.
the qualm section. And this probably is my glasses. I have a certain idea of how Jonathan Kent acts towards
His
Superman.
composure.
His composure, even just like, yes, being cautious, but not being so like, Jesus, man, we're talking about kids here. It's that part about it. But also I'm also more so a fan of kind of one of the cliche deaths of Jonathan Kent, of like a heart attack, where Clark literally cannot do anything about that. Whereas this death, though it makes sense for where they live and the circumstances and all that kind of stuff, I'm like,
yeah.
he literally could have done something about it. And I understand kind of the cautiousness of Jonathan Kent of like, don't, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's just, it never landed
think-
for me as like
Sorry.
that makes sense.
I think what we're feeling is kind of the same about Jonathan Kent. What I mentioned earlier is like, I think the scene that personifies it the way in my head canon, again, this could be baggage. In my head canon is when he gets in that bully pushes him down and he's like, shit, I wanted you to hit him too, but you can't. And I wanted a little bit more of that shit, I wanted you to hit him too about the kids. Like, yeah, I mean, like, that's tough. But,
Where he's
get
almost like he's his father, but can also be kind of friendly, if that makes sense.
Hey, pal. Hey,
Hey,
sport.
buckaroo.
Buddy, buckaroo.
Hey, bud. Some sunshine in your hair.
Yeah, it
But
was
that was
just that's really like my only. Everything else has kind of logic in my head of
Sure.
because I've heard like the qualms about the city and all like the destruction and whatnot. So yeah, that's the only qualm that I can think of, really.
I'll go, or unless you want me to go last, Tom.
Go ahead, Corey.
Okay. My main one is watching this. This is like my fourth time watching it. I don't know whose point of view this film is from. And for me, that leads to a lot of disjointed scenes. and the point of view of the film kind of switches in the middle of scenes as well. Sometimes it's from Superman's point of view. Sometimes it's from Lois's point of view, and it'll switch in the middle of scenes, and it just in a way, and I get that happens in movies a lot, but it felt like, and then there's some like found footage shots as well where the camera's shaky and watching stuff, and it just removed me from figuring out whose story I'm watching.
To. Yeah.
You know, I got like 45% of the way through the movie. Sorry, 75% of the way through the movie before that hit me. And I was like, why am I'm not feeling related. So, like, cause sometimes Superman is a third party in things.
The whole, like when he's focus. Like on the Arctic or with like, he's Joe and he's taking all the luggage. It's like, you're not with him at all. Yeah. And like, I just, it just confused me. As not confused me, that's not the right phrasing, but it left me with a lack of empathy a lot of the time. Jostled me, yes. Left me with
rustled your jimmies.
Lack of empathy for a lot of the film. And that was compounded by these time jumps that would happen. And the biggest perpetrator of this is right after Superman kills Zod. Mm-hmm. He screams, and the next jump cut is a missile crashing and Superman being like, "Don't follow me." And there's no time in between. I don't know how much time has passed. I don't know where Superman is mentally in that scene. I don't know how long ago was Zod. How's he feeling about all that? How's everything going with Lois after that? Like, this whole city is destructed, and then the next scene is him being like cheeky. And I'm like, that happened a few times in the film, and it again made me feel like I would have wanted, like, I feel like there's a Snyder cut out there that's like 3.5, 4 hours where they put in all the stuff that the studio cut out. You know what I mean? Because it felt the same way, because I've since watched Batman vs. Superman theatrical cut, and I felt the same thing. I was like, there's something missing. There's something missing here that I'm not getting. Like, and then I watched that.
There's something missing.
I watched that ultimate edition of Batman vs. Superman, and I go, there it is. There's all the context I needed and motivation. So those are my two big qualms. If you want to talk more, I got more. DM me on the Discords.
For me, since I'm the last one, I think there's a lot of characters, and that's probably my biggest issue. Is
maybe that's like, lending to my qualm, where I'm like, there's a lot of people. I don't know who am I watching? Like,
I know your boy Toby's in there, Corey. And it's like, oh man, he's in here. And then, like, one of my favorite characters is Feora, because she's such a badass. But I'm like, I want more of her, like, too. And it's like they have so many strands in here that I'm like, oh man, like, I know you're not gonna get it. Like, I would want to see more of Clark and Pete when they grew up, and you see Lana, and that's it. It's just a little bit of it. And I'm like, okay, well, it's fine. Like, we're not gonna go into Smallville. That's okay. And so there's a lot of that. It's like General Swanwick. There's,
Christopher Maloney's
character. And then he has like his tiny little arc.
Perry.
Harry. Perry. Yeah, Perry. So there's and then like there's that nice like weird, like not weird, but like there's that little microcosm between Lombard and Jenny. And I'm like the scene with the fucking gravity thing happening, and then Perry just stops and grabs her hand. I'm like, oh my god, it's such a good moment. And
then there's the Daily Planet guy who likes to give Lois a hard time and ask everyone out in the office.
Lombard, yeah. And he's an actual character. He's supposed to be like this blonde-haired, blue-eyed asshole. But then they have Stamper from fucking House of Cards, which I love. And so yeah, there's just a lot of characters in here to be like, yeah, it's a Man of Steel film. It's a Superman story. But man, they fucking went with all the characters. They fucking said, here's how much dick we have, and we're take as much as you like, but also it's still on the table. Like, oh my god, I can't. There's so much that I can't.
Have you seen this?
Yeah, that's pretty much my only real qualm of it. Like, other than that, everything that you guys all mentioned, like, are things that I think I've had to kind of like, not like I've been okay or have passed on. They don't affect me as much as they affect you guys. So
yeah, I mean that could be, for me, it's either editing. It could be an editing thing too. Like, how was it? Editing or directing? I wanted it more focused.
Yeah,
that's all.
So now we go into the rating. Now who's first?
Who do you think, Tom?
It's me. It's me first.
Not me.
Who do you think would have no votes in a DC film?
I don't know. So for me, and this is what I'm going to say, I'm going to give it a solid 4.9.
Jeez.
It's not
Wowee.
to me like
Wow.
100% perfect, but I fucking really, really like it. It's kind of like Rush Hour, where it's like, it's not perfect, but man, I fucking love that movie. So I think it's not like a Dark Knight, but I think it's damn near close, especially for like, hey, this is all of Superman. And we can't get Krypton, we can't get Smallville, and we can't get to the blue suit without all that shit. You're like, oh my God, you have quite the task, my friend.
Next would be me or Josh. Do you want me to go first, Josh, or you
I'll
want
go. Just because
Okay.
it very much echoes what Tom just said. 4.9 for me.
Ooh.
It's very, very close to
Twinsy.
It's very, very close to that 5 for me. But there are a few. There's only a couple of things that stand out. That it's the Jonathan Kent thing I would change. So if I wouldn't change anything, then it would be a 5. But I'm changing something. 4.9. I love this
4.9.
movie so much.
Got it. 3.4.
For Corey.
Yeah.
3.4 for Corey.
3.4.
Does anyone feel like their vote? Or that's me. That's only me.
That's only you.
It's only you.
Yeah, I just feels disjointed, and I think it has a lot of great ideas in it, and a lot of great casting, and some phenomenal acting.
Yeah, Lawrence Fishburne as Perry is
oh man,
is electrical.
I want to be his friend.
General
I
relativity.
want to work for Perry. I want to work for Perry 100%.
It's pretty fucking smart.
Not to say that, I mean, I've said it before, I want to see another Man of Steel too. I want to see Henry Cavill play this role for as long as he wants to play this role.
Forever.
Just narratively, I couldn't figure out who was telling the story. And that could be the director's point of view too, and sometimes it was, but yeah.
Caitlin?
3.4.
4.4.
4.4 for Caitlin. Was Tom right? Who else was right?
I'm gonna pull it up right now.
How many of you all were right? I feel like, what was it? They all majority voted for Corey?
No, Caitlin.
Oh wow.
Majority was Caitlin, but I had the second amount of votes. Here we go.
Caitlin. I will say I did like that when Henry Cavill came in shirtless. Caitlin was like, "Oh, Henry Cavill."
So
There
Dana
he
P, shout outs are Dana P,
Came around the corner.
Dana P, Kristen F, and Liam M.
Congrats.
You got it right. Congrats. Shout out.
Where are they, Corey?
They're the Gatorade Grumper.
There's so many words and they change every time, so it always ends up like a jumbled mess.
Grumper.
Gatorade.
There you have it. You heard it here first.
The first episode of our Road to Snyder Cut, Man of Steel. Thank you
Book
so
is
much,
closed on that
everybody,
one.
for listening. Like Corey said just a little bit ago, the conversation is welcome to continue in the Discord. There is a movie section in there. Continue. Or you can DM us. Each of us are happy to continue the conversation. If you're new to Nerd On, welcome. Check out our website, nerdon.tv. It has all the information on everything that we do, including links to our YouTubes. All of our episodes go to video. So you get to see all those shenanigans that we on this digital screen do and blah, blah, blah. There's lots of weird facial expressions and hand things that happen that you just got to see it to believe it. But yeah, like I said at the top, stop by, rate and review, share us with your friends and family. That's how we grow. But yeah, that has been this episode. Thank you so much for listening. You know the drill. As always, nerd on.
Nerd on.
Nerd on.
Krypton.
Ending broadcast.